Hey, thanks for making it to Veterans Info Tap. I'm glad you made it. May 19th is around the corner, and I'm going to tell you now that this is probably one of the most important videos that you're going to watch. You've already may have seen videos regarding, including my own, about the rating schedule change for digestive system. Now, here's the key. The big deal here is, of course, there's some good things happening with it, like in the realm of celiac disease and IBS and hemorrhoids. Great. There's good movement there. Now, there's even a silver lining around the cloud of the GIrd change. That's gastroesophageal reflux disease. The silver lining is that the maximum rating is going to jump up to 80%. However, it's going to be a small, minute amount of folks that are going to be able to qualify for that specific rating. And quite frankly, any higher rating on the new rating schedule for GIrd, gastroesophageal reflux disease. If you have GIrd, bad heartburn, if you're not even sure if you have GIrd, to be honest with you, but you have heartburn and you've just never been diagnosed, you've dealt with it ever since you've been in service, taking antacid from the medic or the corpsman, buying Tums, having Tums in your pack, drinking Mylanta, all of that stuff. If you've been doing that since you've been in service, well, chances are you may potentially have GIrd, which today could pay out up to 60% rating on a much more, I guess, attainable rating schedule. Now, this is important to go through here. I'm going to share with you what it looks like today, what it's going to look like in the future as far as rating is concerned, and how you can obtain the rating without having a lot of Nexus documentation, evidence that it started in service. Okay, I'll run through that. Now, the next piece that I want to share as well is the most important piece. You must preserve a date prior to May 19th as your effective date in order to secure the current rating schedule as an option. How do you do that? You file an intent to file. An intent to file, an ITF, intent to file can be done paper form, online by just starting a claim, or you can call the 800 number for the VA Benefits Administration and let them know that you want to file an intent to file. Now, always, always, always inspect what you expect. So, in other words, if you call the VA today and you say, hey, VA, I want to file an intent to file for compensation, because they're going to say for pension or compensation, it's going to be for service-connected compensation. So, you do that today, call tomorrow. Hey, I want to make sure that my intent to file is in place. Yep, it sure is, Mr. So-and-so or Miss So-and-so. It is in place as of yesterday. Perfect, good, just wanted to make sure. Now, you have an intent to file date prior to May 19th. What that's going to do for you is it's going to preserve the current rating schedule for GIrd with a maximum of 60% rating. Now, I'm going to walk you through what you would need to do to start documenting this if you are somebody who, and there's going to be a bunch of presumed situations here, not presumptive conditions, just presumed situations here, because there's 1,000 different ways that you can skin this cat. So I want to just take one example and run it through for a veteran who's been experiencing bad heartburn ever since they've been in service and have never gotten diagnosed for GIrd, okay? But they have GIrd. Okay, and how that would look and how you would file that claim and walk you through it as an example. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through the notification from the VA specifically regarding these rating changes, just to get it all out there for folks. So with that, hit the thumbs up, subscribe, share with a friend, all that good stuff. I truly appreciate it. Every like, every subscription, every minute watched helps to push this information out. All right, so jumping into it here. When you're looking at GIrd, gastroesophageal reflux disease, really it's a bad heartburn with a bunch of different things around it. They currently rate it under hiatal hernia, okay? They're shifting it on May 19th, it takes effect. They're shifting it to esophageal stricter guidelines. I'm going to read through both of those just so you can understand what you're dealing with on each side of the coin here. Now, the beauty the beauty of filing a claim or filing an intent to file now and filing a claim within 12 months of that intent to file to preserve that effective date that's prior to the May 19th change, okay? Well, the beauty of it here is that by doing that, you're now processing a claim with an effective date that kind of transcended 2 rating schedules. What the VA will do is they're going to look at your condition and they're going to bounce you off of each rating schedule if they're going to approve you for service connection, and they're going to bounce you off of each rating schedule and decide which one is the best for you, whichever one's going to benefit you the most. In other words, if you get a 60% rating on the old schedule and a 10% on the new, they're going to give you the 60 on the old. Okay, a lot of folks out there don't file for GIrd because they don't have any in-service connection documentation evidence that they can find or that they can think about. And also, a lot of folks just don't even realize that you can file for GIrd, right? A lot of people out there are just under the assumption that it's just physical, injuries that you're really filing for. Now, I get it. A lot of you frequent YouTube watchers of this information, not just mine, other people's, you get it. You are the ones that are enlightened and understand the vast array of VA opportunity as far as your disability compensation is concerned. But believe me, there are, for every one of you, there's 10 that don't. So let's jump into this here. For GIrd, right? Let's say that you're, you served 20 years ago, okay? 20 years ago, 30 years ago, it doesn't matter, 40 years ago. And you remember, hey, when I was in, I always had heartburn, very bad. I've just been dealing with it my whole life, right? And let's just pretend that you've never been diagnosed for GIrd. You've just dealt with your bad heartburn, right? On today's rating schedule, the before the change rating schedule, it's rated under hiatal hernia. And in order to get a 60% rating, basically you're looking at symptoms of pain, like in your chest, in your shoulder, so pain, which is very much associated with bad heartburn, GIrd, gastroesophageal reflux disease, vomiting, regurgitation. You could have some weight loss. You could have some blood in your stool or in your vomit. You could have some moderate anemia. And then it says, or other symptom combinations productive of severe impairment of health. And my answer to that is, if you are diagnosed, in fact, with GIrd, gastroesophageal reflux disease, then the answer to that is yes. It is productive of a severe impairment to your health, because as the acids go up into your esophagus, it's eroding it, which could lead to esophageal cancer, which would really suck and be a severe impairment to your health. So that is just kind of an overarching realm of what you would be looking at for GIrd at a 60% rating on today's rating schedule prior to May 19th. 30%, it's basically persistent recurrent epigastric distress with difficulty swallowing, heartburn, regurgitation, accompanied by substernal or arm and shoulder pain productive of a considerable impairment of health, which is, it's always yes. And then a 10% rating is with 2 or more symptoms for the 30% evaluation. Now here's the other kind of kicker here. If you don't read, and this goes for any condition that you're filing for, if you don't read the schedule of ratings for your condition, you don't know what the VA is looking for. So in other words, in this situation, right, a 10% rating says 2 or more symptoms of the 30% rating evaluation, which again, I read the 30% evaluation. So if you go in and you don't know what they're looking for, and you say, oh yeah, it's bad heartburn, sometimes it's like a regurgitation, a little bit of throw up in my back of my throat, and that's all you say, that's a 10% rating. But if you were more articulate and you hit all the things that they're looking for, if you have them, of course. Don't make things up, don't lie, don't create fraud. But for many people who have GIrd, gastroesophageal reflux disease, they're going to experience these other things, right? Like epigastric distress, difficulty swallowing, heartburn, regurgitation, substernal or arm or shoulder pain. Doesn't say all three. It could be any of those. Arm pain, substernal. For me, it's substernal, shoulder pain, and then productive of a considerable impairment of health, which is, of course, yes, right? So important to understand the rating schedule. So 10, 30, 60 are your options today. If you file an intent to file, those will still be your options. Now, if you wait until after May 19th, it's going to bounce over to esophageal stricture. Okay, and that rating schedule is way different. It doesn't have any of your classic, major heartburn, gastroesophageal reflux disease type of symptoms, in my opinion. What it has is a documented history of recurrent or refractory esophageal stricture, causing difficulty swallowing with at least one symptom present. And it gives you three options: aspiration, undernutrition, substantial weight loss. And that's it. Okay. So it's really the tightening of the esophagus. Okay. And for the substantial weight loss aspect of it, it says that you also must have treatment with either a surgical correction or the PEG tube. Okay. The next one, for a 50% rating, you would have to have a documented history of recurrent or refractory esophageal stricture causing difficulty swallowing, which requires at least one of the following: dilation, which is where they drop a little line down with a balloon and blow it up and expand your esophagus because it was tightened up, right? So for the dilation, 3 or more times per year, or dilation using steroids at least one time per year, or an esophageal stent placement. I'll go ahead and do the 30% here. Documented history of recurrent esophageal stricture causing difficulty swallowing, which requires no dilation, which requires dilation no more than 2 times per year. All right, so what about somebody who just kind of deals with it and they've never had to have their had to have it dilated, right? So now what are we looking at? Well, 10% says documented history of esophageal stricture that requires daily medications to control difficulty swallowing, otherwise asymptomatic. So you're not really doing the dilation, but you're taking some medications to control it a little bit. You get a 10% rating, okay? So not much. Now, let's say you're not taking any medication, documented history without daily symptoms or requirement for daily medications, 0%. So that's the new rating schedule for GIrd, gastroesophageal reflux disease. So I don't know. I think that most folks are going to fall in the 0 to 10% range. Of course, there's going to be people that are going to benefit from this rating change, and good for them. They're going to get 80% because they got to go in and get dilated and all that stuff. And so that's a good thing. But the bulk, the majority of veterans are going to be on the lower end. So now let's talk about, now that we've talked about the two, you filing your intent to file now prior to May 19th, what's going to happen? You're preserving that date. You get to work both rating schedules. Whatever you rate the highest in is going to benefit you. You should read the rating schedule for GIrd, right? So for hiatal hernia, so you know the verbiage that they're looking for. Now, let's say again, you were in the service for 30 years ago, and you never really documented anything. You never went and got diagnosed for anything regarding your bad heartburn, your potential GIrd. My suggestion would be this. File your intent to file now prior to May 19th. Ensure that it did get recorded with the VA. Sooner the better. You only got a couple days. Then what I would do is I would order, if I don't have them, and even if I did have them, I still may order them, my records, right? Order all my service treatment records with the SF-180 form. So that's standard form 180. And I would order my service treatment records. I would get those and I would thumb through them, and I would see if I had anywhere in there mentioned at all the word heartburn or anything like that, and see if it's in there. If it's in there, that's going to be helpful, right? There oftentimes are some self-attesting forms that you would fill out during either an exit physical health assessment or annual physical health assessment, what have you. And there's a bunch of yes, no's, not applicables, have you now or have you ever experienced any of the following? And you're checking boxes, right? Tuberculosis, arthritis, swollen joints, migraines, heartburn, and it just goes on and on and on. So if you check the box for heartburn, yes, and then the next page is signed by some physician's assistant or some doctor on, some 0405, that's going to be helpful for your nexus, okay? Your link between your time in service and your condition. Now, if you find something that says heartburn or you check the box or anything like that in your service treatment records, good. If not, it's not the end of the world. It's definitely a steeper hill to climb. What you would want to do, if you could, is I suggest this. You're going to write your statement yourself, right? You're going to write your statement about how you never got diagnosed. You just took over-the-counter Tums or Rolaids or whatever, drank Mylanta, got antacids from your corpsman or your medic or what have you, and you just moved on, right? That's what we did. So you would write your letter essentially explaining why you never got diagnosed. Then, or mentioned it, in fact, during your military service, okay? Doesn't mean you weren't getting medication from your medic or your corpsman. They don't annotate it, right? They don't write down that they gave you a Motrin, okay? They don't write down they gave you an aspirin. They don't write down that they gave you a Benadryl. They don't write down that they gave you an antacid. So you would want to explain that. Then you would want to try to contact anybody that may have served with you. And I know the more time goes by, the less likely that is to happen. Do your best. If you can find anyone that you served with who could write a letter, the more the better. I mean, if you can find one, awesome. If you can find three, even better. Called buddy statements. Have them write statements attesting to their knowledge of knowing that you have suffered with bad heartburn, GIrd, whatever, and explain some of the situation. Oh yeah, I always saw, Joe Snuffy with a handful of Rolaids. If I ever needed something, I always knew that he had them. Whatever, right? So they could explain it for you, or attest to it for you in their letter, attesting to their knowledge of you suffering from that condition, or at least symptoms from that condition during your time in service. Then what I like to do, and a lot of people don't talk about this, that covers your in-service aspect of GIrd, right? In this case, GIrd, gastroesophageal reflux disease, bad heartburn, okay? During service. Well, let's back up. Get with a family member, somebody who knew you, brother, sister, cousin, aunt, uncle, mother, father, brother, whatever, right? Find somebody who can also, one or two people, that could write a letter or letters attesting to their knowledge of he never or she never had any issues to my knowledge prior to joining X. It wasn't until Christmas of whatever when he was eating Tums all the time, or whatever the case is, right? You get the point. So now you're painting a picture in the event you have to take it to the Board of Veterans Appeals and have it seen by a judge. You're writing the letter explaining why you did not get diagnosed or mention it during your time in service. You had people who served with you who attested to their knowledge of knowing you suffered from that condition. Then you had family members who said, look, before he or she joined, they never had any issues. It wasn't until after that I started noticing these problems, and it was during their, their leave in the summer of whatever, or their leave during the Christmas of whatever, in the middle of their service, that I recall distinctly that they were, eating as much Rolaids as they were turkey or whatever it is, right? So important, because it paints the picture. You didn't have it prior, you had it during, you had people attest to it, you wrote an explanation of why. Then you're going to then lean on your doc. Now remember, if you had that documentation that where you found in your records, your service treatment records, of a mention of heartburn or a check mark of I've experienced heartburn, anything like that, that's evidence for you, and that is good as well. I mean, you need to have that you at least mentioned it. You'd probably also throw it in my letter that I had mentioned it, and nobody ever really, did anything about it. So now you would then go to your doctor and you have your doctor write you ideally, if they will, write you a Nexus Letter. A Nexus Letter is not a nexus. A Nexus Letter is to support a nexus for you, which is basically stating to the VA that you're in this circumstance, your GIrd is at least likely as not, which is the VA's minimum threshold, right? Ideally, doctor would say more than likely, but in some cases, the doctor's like, well, I don't know. Great, doc, that's fine that you don't know. Coin flip it, that's fine. 50-50 is fine. So at least likely as not that the gastroesophageal reflux disease manifested during service as evidenced by, different witness statements and the veteran's personal statements or whatever, or the annotation in the service treatment records or whatever, if you have that. So they're going to write up this Nexus Letter for you with some sort of rationale behind it. Then, if you want to go the next step, again, remember that you read the schedule of ratings for your condition, GIrd, and remember it's under hiatal hernia today, and essentially tomorrow, after May 19th, it's going to be esophageal stricture. 2 different rating schedules. You're going to read them, and then whatever one you are the patient, whatever one you feel like you're going to have the higher rating on, then you need to have that conversation with your doctor and make sure that that information in the rating schedule for the specific rating that you qualify for gets embedded into your notes in your medical record, so you could provide that as evidence to the severity of your GIrd so you can get rated appropriately. Now, for many folks, this is going to help you push your rating higher and potentially get up to 100% rating. That 100% rating, obviously we all know that service connection VA disability is not taxable. You just get that full amount not taxed. And for somebody who has a spouse and a dependent child, that's over $4,000 per month of tax-free money in your pocket. And whether you need it or not, if you don't need it, invest it, let it grow, make more money. If you don't want it, donate it. If you need it, well, now you have it, right? Now, here's the next thing. Utilize the DBQ, the Disability Questionnaire for Digestive Systems from the VA. If you just Google search that on the VA's website, there will be a list of disability questionnaires, DBQs. And you'll find the one for digestive system. Inside the digestive system form, there's information regarding or questions regarding GIrd, gastroesophageal reflux disease. Remember, it's a blank form. It's worthless without the right information in it. Okay? Don't guess. Print out the DBQ and print out the schedule of ratings. Circle the one that meets you, and then go to your doctor and have that conversation and make sure that you're having your doctor fill out that DBQ utilizing the information that the VA is looking for. Next on the list here is you're going to gather all that stuff together and you're going to file your claim. As long as you file your claim within the 12-month period of that intent to file date, you're preserving that intent to file date as your effective date. And again, because that effective date versus your fully adjudicated claim date transcends 2 rating schedules, May 18th and May 19th rating schedules, you are going to be weighted against both rating schedules and you're going to be given the highest rating on either one of the schedules, which is super important. So take advantage of this opportunity. Don't miss out on this potential 60% rating that could raise your disability compensation payments. This is a big deal, and I think that a lot of people are going to miss the boat, sadly. So make sure that you take advantage of it. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate it. Have a great one. And remember, if we don't take care of each other, something went wrong.